You can't pretend this is normal. I insisted, my voice trembling as I fought back tears. Gustavo scoffed. And how would you manage alone? You'd be lost without us. Their words were poison in my veins, and I felt my resolve harden. I built this life. I paid for every corner of this house with years of work. You can't take that away. Ethan's eyes widened. What's wrong? I love Grandma. The innocence of a child pierced through my anger, but I couldn't waver now. I love you too, sweetheart. That's why I can't let them disrespect me. Gustavo, Mom, you really think you'll go on like this? You're being selfish. Selfish. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. What you call selfishness is me finally speaking up for myself. Renata stepped closer, desperation in her gaze. Mom, let's talk about this rationally. We can work it out. We love you. Then prove it. I cried, a surge of emotion overwhelming me. Respecting my boundaries is the first step. They looked at each other, exchanging glances filled with confusion and frustration. You're making a big mistake, Gustavo muttered, the tone daunting. I straightened up, meeting their gazes with newfound strength. And you'll regret thinking I'd just comply. The house felt stifling, and I suddenly longed for freedom. I refused to live in this atmosphere any longer.
Ethan stepped forward, eyes wide. Can we still have cookies? His innocence struck me in the heart like a tender knife. Yes, darling. We will bake together, but only if we have calm discussions first. Valerie chimed in, I want cookies. I knelt down to meet them, feeling the surge of love wrap around me. Together, we can make cookies after we rebuild our connections. But Mom, Renata remarked, her voice breaking slightly, you're ruining our family. No, I'm fighting to save my identity. I declared, anger trailing into a fiery hope. Gustavo stepped closer. The facade of his authority was crumbling. But you're throwing away everything. And I refuse to lose myself in service to demands. Valerie gazed up at me, concern written all over her little face. Why are the grown-ups fighting? It's not your fault, sweetheart. All I ask for is respect, I reassured her. Renata, this doesn't have to end badly, Mom. You've raised me. It shouldn't be this way. The warmth of the old memories caught up with me, and I couldn't help but want to protect them as best I could. Gustavo, frustration bubbling, you're living in a fantasy, Mom. This is real life. Real life shouldn't feel like a prison. I replied firmly. Weeks felt like years, but with courage gathered like a shield, I began claiming back my space. I deserve more than I'm being offered.
Renata stepped back, not realizing what was fading. Mom, we're family. And that means we should treat each other well. I'm not a servant. I'm your mother. Gustavo, you're going to regret going down this path. And yet, you're already losing respect each day. Ethan whispered, Grandma, you'll take me to the park, right? I nodded, tears forming. Of course, my love. I love the park. Valerie cheered. Gustavo, it's not meant to be this hard. I glanced at my grandchildren and felt the tears welling in my eyes. I want to be the grandma you know, not the one shackled by demands. Renata appeared softer now, the sharpness fading from her edges. We wanted to help, Mom. Help shouldn't mean control. You both need to understand. The air crackled with a tense, uncertain energy. I had stood my ground long enough that perhaps they might finally understand my perspective. Ethan, Grandma, do you not want to help us anymore? We'll miss you. I'll always love you, sweet boy, I said softly, kneeling down to their level. But love also means I have to take care of myself. Gustavo blinked, realizing the weight of my words. You're making this harder, Mom. Hard? Or are we finally just addressing the issues? I countered, feeling my pulse steady. Renata, there's still room for compromise. Compromise is needed, but respect must come first and foremost. The sincerity in my voice shifted the atmosphere, and a sliver of hope entered my heart. Gustavo crossed his arms. You're taking things too far. and you're taking control over this home. I fired back, the anger fueling my strength. Even though the children were sweetly unaware of the turmoil, I wanted them to see a model of strength and love instead of helplessness. Ethan, so, what can we do? I love cookies. We can bake cookies as soon as we regain balance together, I replied, feeling my resolve build. Valerie nodded vigorously. I want to bake cookies too. You will, I reassured them. But we need our voices heard. The tension morphed. The writhing discomfort they had been clinging to now struggled against the hope I began to foster. Renata tried to control her emotions. This is how it works, please. We can sit down and talk. Talk openly. I refuse to be an unpaid caretaker. Gustavo, you need to step back. Think this through. I am thinking, and I refuse to ignore my worth. The energy shifted in the room. Mom, if you truly love us, Renata began hesitantly, if you love me, respect my rights. I shot back, frustration seeping into my words. There's so much at stake here, Gustavo added, his tone lowering, perhaps sensing my resolve. Ethan, can't we just all be happy? I knelt next to them and said, yes. Happiness requires balance. I want to be free too. Valerie chimed in softly, Grandma, please. In that moment of vulnerability, I felt the urge to wrap them in my arms, to shield them from what lay ahead. Dashed expectations fueled my determination. I refused to go back to living in servitude. Renata's eyes glossed over with frustration. Mom, you're my lifeline. I need you. You need to understand that my life and well-being matter, too, I countered passionately. Gustavo folded his arms tighter, a scowl crossing his face. Ethan's eyes brimmed with tears. Mom, will we still get to see Grandma? Valerie, we love Grandma. You'll see her when she's free to be herself, not just your maid, Renata said sharply, her frustration bubbling to the surface. The conflict unfolded, echoing past grievances fueled by misunderstanding. Mom, don't say that. We can fix this. Renata pleaded, desperation lacing her words. Fixing starts with honest conversations, not empty demands. I replied, my voice echoing with resolve. Gustavo ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. There's no way to backtrack. You'll hurt everyone. This is not about hurting. This is about reclaiming my identity while uplifting yours. Ethan stepped forward, voice shaky. Does this mean you're leaving us? No, my love. I'm not going anywhere. I just want my voice heard. Weeks stretched into fragile memories, but every word we exchanged built a path towards healing instead of further division. Mom, let's change the direction of our family. Renata declared, each word a fragile promise. Yes, I encouraged. But it has to be built on respect, a foundation lasting for generations. Gustavo, we'll make this work again. Let's lean in together. Ethan smiled wide. Can we have cookies? Absolutely. But first, we need to trust one another, I said, feeling proud of the progress we were making. The warmth in my heart returned, flickering like the flame of a candle that refused to die out. Ethan took my hand. I will always love you, Grandma. You're the best. I love you too, Ethan. We'll build a beautiful future, one where our hearts can finally breathe, I replied, feeling my happiness flourish once more. Together, we stood in solidarity, as the promise of love grounded us in the present.
Mom, starting tomorrow, these are your new responsibilities in this house. Renata's cold words echoed in my mind as I read the paper she'd just handed me. It wasn't a suggestion or a request, it felt more like an order. My own daughter in my own home was giving me a work schedule as if I were a newly hired domestic worker. If you don't agree, then you can pack your things and leave, she continued, her voice devoid of warmth, an attitude she'd perfected in recent months. This house needs someone who helps, not someone who just takes up space. My hands trembled as I stared at the list,
6 a.m. Wake up and prepare breakfast. 7 a.m. Get the kids dressed before taking them to school. 8 a.m. Carry out general house cleaning. 9 a.m. Wash and hang the laundry. 10 a.m. Prepare lunch. The list stretched on, hour by hour, filling my day with tasks designed to keep me busy. It ended at 11 p.m., when I was expected to be ironing clothes for the next day. And of course, Gustavo added from the couch, his eyes glued to his phone, all this includes paying for the house expenses. That's what your pension is for. No, I stood frozen in my own living room, the very space where I had cradled Renata when she was born, where we had celebrated birthdays, and I comforted her through heartbreaks. Now, the same child stood before me, her eyes cold as ice, as if I were nothing more than an intruder in my own home. You don't have much time to decide, Mom, she said, busy painting her nails a garish pink, seemingly unfazed by my turmoil. Gustavo has already spoken with a lawyer. Since we've been living here for over 2 years, we have rights. So, you can either be our free housekeeper, or find somewhere else to live. The choice is yours. The ultimatum was as sharp as a knife. In my own house, with the deed in my name, my daughter was blackmailing me. Either I became her live-in maid, funding their lifestyle, or I'd be kicked out of the space I had nurtured. Think it through, Renata continued, her voice dripping with nonchalance. At your age, where are you going to find another place to live on a $600 pension? This is the best arrangement. You have a roof over your head and food, and you can see your grandkids every day unless you prefer being alone in some rundown room. Gustavo let out a cruel laugh, the final nail in the coffin. Let's be realistic, honey. What else will you do with your life? At least this way, you'll feel useful instead of just watching TV like old ladies your age do. My heart ached as I looked down at Ethan and Valerie, who were sitting on the floor, glued to their tablets, blissfully unaware of the disaster looming over our family. Grandma, are you going to make snacks? I'm hungry, Ethan asked, his innocent query cutting through the tension like a knife. This was the cruelest normality. To them, I wasn't a nurturing grandmother filled with love. I was merely the hands that cooked, cleaned, and provided. I was the free domestic worker who somehow owed them my existence. Mom, Renata said, stepping closer and laying a condescending hand on my shoulder. It's not that we don't love you. We truly do. That's why we're giving you this opportunity to stay. But things have to change. This house needs structure, and someone has to manage it. And why does that someone have to be me? I managed to whisper, anger rising within me, yet feeling small in my own home. Because you don't work, Gustavo interjected, barely looking up from his phone, indignant at my presence. We work, we have responsibilities. You simply collect your pension and don't contribute anything valuable. His words were like a slap to the face. 40 years of getting up at dawn, taking 2 buses to get to work, and saving diligently to buy this house, all while raising Renata alone after her father abandoned us. You don't do anything productive, I repeated, the words feeling suffocating. All these years maintaining this house, paying bills, feeding you, taking care of your children while you went out. What about washing clothes and cleaning up after you? Those are just duties in a household, Renata interrupted with her perfected condescending smile. The difference is that now it's going to be organized with strict schedules so things run smoothly. I surveyed my living room, my heart aching. The furniture I had painstakingly acquired, ruined. Years of memories, the leather sofa, stained and torn, my once proud wooden coffee table, marred by careless use. On the walls hung family photos replaced by movie posters that reflected Gustavo's interests. My cherished books were relegated to a box in the garage, replaced by his video games and gadgets. Mom, this is going to be beneficial for you, Renata continued, devoid of empathy. You've seemed depressed, bored even. Having responsibilities will help you rediscover your purpose. The manipulation was so blatant it physically hurt. She was packaging my subjugation as a favor to me, selling me my own servitude as a therapeutic remedy. And you have to work on weekends too, Gustavo added, casually splaying out his plans for my life. Saturdays will be for deep cleaning, and Sundays are for preparing meals for the week. Like a real home. I echoed, my emotions boiling. This isn't a home, it's a prison. Yes, but now we're a family, Renata replied, the twisted logic leaving me speechless. In a family, everyone has a role. Ours is to work and earn income. Yours is to maintain the house. Valerie, my 6-year-old granddaughter, wandered into the kitchen, her eyes wide with expectation. Grandma, can I have cookies? The ones on top of the fridge. I looked down at her, and my heart swelled with love, yet I realized that all she saw was a servant ready to cater to her whims.